Listen now to the book, One Night with the Hybrid King, written by the author Anya Curves. If you want to buy the ebook, link in the description. Subscribe to the channel. Like and share. Chapter 101, Seraphina. Lady Seraphina? A feminine voice suddenly rises behind me, blending with the sound of the waves. I'm seated facing the sea, admiring the beach as I strategize my next moves. Turning around, I notice the presence of a tall woman, dark-skinned, with a defined and muscular build. Her broad shoulders and firm gaze might have intimidated me, if I were human. Who's asking? I reply with suspicion, already feeling my powers tingling at my fingertips. The woman steps closer and sits beside me, her eyes scanning me as though assessing whether I'm worthy of hearing her response. Kiliana. I've come on behalf of my king, she replies formally, and I raise an eyebrow. Caelum has no servant named Kiliana. Drave Frost, she adds. I blink at her, surprised by the declaration. Drave Frost declaring himself a king? The audacity of the man leaves me speechless. I rest my arm on the chair and shift my posture to better engage with Kiliana. And what have you come to bring me? A belated wedding gift from my dear brother-in-law? I ask, my voice dripping with sarcasm. Kiliana doesn't flinch. Neither disdain nor amusement crosses her face. Her unyielding and serious demeanor leaves me somewhat impressed. Drave wishes to see you at this address tonight for dinner, Lady Seraphina, Kiliana informs me, handing over a small golden card. Welcome to our city. Enjoy your stay. The woman rises before I can say a word. I glance at the card she handed me. An address and the name of a restaurant are printed on it. I tap the card against the table. What is Drave Frost planning after all this time away? And more importantly, what does he want with me? My curiosity about this enigmatic image of my brother-in-law only deepens. Dinner time arrives, and I make my way to the address provided. The location is a beautiful, luxurious seaside restaurant. The scent of spices and sea breeze fills the air. A waiter escorts me to the top floor of the restaurant, where there's a stunning private balcony. Drave is already seated, waiting for me. It's the first time I've seen Drave up close. I'd only ever seen pictures of him since my marriage to Caelum took place months after the former king's passing, and Drave had already been exiled. The resemblance between the two is striking and admirable, but the difference lies in their eyes. Drave's eyes hold malice, arrogance, and a hunger for control I've never seen in Caelum's gaze. At last, we meet in person, Seraphina. I must say, television doesn't do justice to your true beauty, nor do the magazines, Drave declares, his voice smooth and confident. Another difference between the brothers, Drave's audacious confidence, the way he flirts so shamelessly. He exudes a carefree yet commanding demeanor, fully aware he's miles ahead in this game between him and Caelum. And you look so much like my husband, so, if I'm rude or cruel, don't take it personally. It's just my reflexive reaction to him surfacing, I retort with acidic humor. Drave lets out a short laugh and nods in approval of my bitter joke. Well, something good had to come from our genetics. If it wasn't my father's pure bloodline, then at least let it be the looks, Drave responds, smug and self-assured. For the next few minutes, we sip wine and glance over the menu, merely indulging in the formality of the setting. My curiosity about what Drave is scheming doesn't allow me to play along with false modesty for long. Why did you bring me here, Drave? I could have called your brother or the royal guards since you're not supposed to be back in Veridiana, I state, my eyes locked on his face with unwavering determination. You and Caelum haven't been a couple for a long time, and I know you fled the palace. So please, Seraphina, don't pretend you hold any diplomatic influence, Drave retorts, his tone sharp and cutting. I adjust my posture in my seat, maintaining my composure despite the jab. I won't bow to him. He wants something from me. I just don't know what yet. I brought you here because I have a proposal for you, Drave continues, running his finger along the rim of his wineglass, prolonging the moment before revealing his intent. Join me in my cause to overthrow Caelum. I raise an eyebrow at Drave, analyzing his straightforward yet impossibly complex proposal. And what cause would that be, Drave? The cause of bastards. I reply, my voice laced with acidity. You have no legitimacy to claim the throne. Drave smiles at me, a wicked grin that sends a shiver down my spine. I never said it needed to be legitimate, Seraphina. After all, when has monarchy ever been built on legitimacy? All one needs to rule is power, and I have that in abundance. I lean forward, resting my elbows on the table and placing my chin on my hands. Then why do you need me, Drave? I ask with suspicion. I need your powers. You hail from Syltirion, a realm of powerful enchantresses, though the magic of that land is dwindling by the day, Drave replies, catching me off guard. Perform one small, simple spell for me, and you can return to being queen, with no concern for heirs. The offer is tempting. However, I do need an heir, even if not of my own blood. I need Aria's children to save Syltirion. And how would I remain on the throne? By marrying you? I've already been a Frost's wife. I have no desire to be one again, I counter. You would remain Caelum Frost's wife. But instead of my brother, it would be me. I know you have the power to perform the skin-shifting spell, Seraphina. You've created plenty of shifters before. I know that much. I hold my breath, careful not to betray the relief I feel at his words. If Drave wants the skin-shifting spell, I won't need to perform it to become Aria myself, and that fills me with quiet joy. And what of Caelum's bastards? The royal council already knows of their existence, I muse aloud. Dead, like my brother. They're nothing but a threat to me, Drave replies with visible disdain. I need them, the twins. I'll accept your proposal, but you can't kill the twins, I inform him coldly. Drave's eyes narrow at me, scrutinizing my words as I do the same to him. It's not an impossible demand compared to what he's asking of me. The silence between us stretches for seconds that feel like hours. Fine, the twins live. But at the first slip-up or threat to my reign, the three of you die, Drave declares.
Chapter 102, Aria. For the first time in my life, I catch a glimpse of what my life could be like with Alexander and my children together, a happy family. My heart warms as I watch Alexander hoist a Lowen onto his shoulders like a little rider, while Thorn holds his hand, animatedly chatting about his favorite characters. Lowen plays with Alex's black hair, and he doesn't seem to mind at all. We stroll along the boardwalk until we reach a part of the beach where the waves are calmer and safer for the children. The scene unfolding before me is perfect. My children are happy, Alexander is happy, and I am happy. Once we settle on the sand, Alexander helps me apply sunscreen to the kids. We're in perfect sync, as if we've done this together 100 times, without me needing to explain anything. Thorn and Lowen race toward the water with their toys, eager to explore the shallow waves. I watch as Alexander keeps a sharp eye on them, ensuring they're safe in the water. I place my hand on his bare shoulder, noticing how he's already starting to get a light tan. He turns his face to look at me, a smile forming on his lips. You're amazing with the kids. Thank you for helping me, I say, gratitude lacing my voice. Alexander pulls me close, settling me onto his lap. His arms wrap around my waist, and he plants a kiss on my neck, making me laugh. This isn't helping, Aria, it's my duty. Soon I'll be their stepfather, so we'll be a team raising them. Besides, I love those two. They're a blast. Alexander confesses. I think they might just end up being my best friends. I chuckle at his response, shaking my head. Alexander's sense of humor has always been light and playful. You need to find a new company soon, then. Thorn and Lowen can't be your only friends, I tease. I didn't say they'd be my only friends, just my best ones, Alex retorts, squeezing my waist and making me laugh even more. We spend the entire morning and part of the afternoon at the beach with the kids. We splash around in the water, build sandcastles, go for walks, and hunt for seashells. Thorn and Lowen want to do everything with Alexander, giving me a rare moment of peace to organize our things. Suddenly, while Alexander is building sandcastles with Lowen and Thorn is sitting with me, dozing off, he freezes mid-motion. He turns toward me, his dark blue eyes gleaming with tension. I notice his expression grow sharp as his nostrils flare. He's scenting something. Caelum, he states coldly. I feel my body go rigid as my eyes scan the area, searching for Caelum. Then I see him. Caelum appears on the boardwalk, just a few meters away from us. He stands out against the cheerful beach scene, dressed in jeans, a button-up shirt, and closed shoes. Our eyes meet, and the memory of our last conversation floods my mind. Alexander rises, ready to stop Caelum from coming any closer to us. To our surprise, Caelum raises his hand in a gesture of surrender, approaching slowly and cautiously. I'm not here to argue with you, Caelum announces, his voice calm. His gaze lands on Lowen, who stares at him, frightened, and then on Thorn, still asleep in my arms. Instinctively, I pull Thorn closer to me, while Lowen shifts nearer to Alexander. Briefly, this reaction brings a flicker of pain across Caelum's face, a fleeting, momentary pang. Then what are you here for? I ask coldly. The tension thickens as Caelum steps even closer. My body is on high alert, fearing he might try to take my children. To warn you, both of you, Caelum clarifies, gesturing between me and Alexander. He turns to his cousin with a grave expression. Drave is back. He's here in this city. The name Drave stirs my memory, reminding me of the man who visited the inn just days ago. My brow furrows at the news, unable to fully grasp the situation. Alexander's face, however, betrays his shock. Are you talking about your half-brother? Why on earth is he back? Alexander demands. Drave Frost is your brother? I ask, stunned. I knew the resemblance between them wasn't just my imagination. Even when he told me his last name, I should have paid more attention. Alexander turns to me, equally startled by my question. You know him, he asks, incredulous. He came by the inn a few days ago. Booked a room. Caelum, are you sure he's back? Alexander asks, his concern evident. Yes. He killed Asher 2 days ago. It's him, Alexander. That's why I'm here, Caelum answers, his voice thick with emotion. The weight of his words hits me hard. I didn't know Asher well, but during the brief time I worked at the castle, he was always courteous and helpful. I can see the pain in Caelum's eyes as he shares the news of Asher's death. Despite the tension between the three of us, Alexander steps forward and embraces his cousin, offering comfort for the loss of his friend. I came to warn you, Caelum continues, regaining his composure. Drave has already made contact with Aria. That means he probably knows about the children. Fear creeps into me again, a familiar and suffocating dread. Another threat to my children? Will I never have peace with them? Will there always be danger lurking around every corner? Alexander and I exchange a glance, and he moves closer to me, with Aloan instinctively following suit, huddling near us. I think we should return to the capital, my love, Alexander says thoughtfully. I know you're worried about Seraphina, but with Drave here, we can't take the risk. I sigh heavily, disheartened by the idea of going back to the capital. The lingering fear for Seraphina still gnaws at me, but I understand Alexander's perspective. We could go to the lowlands instead if you'd prefer, Alexander suggests. It's close to the capital and safe there too. I won't let anything happen to you or the kids. It's better if you stay in the lowlands, Caelum agrees in a subdued voice. There are more soldiers there, and we can fortify the castle. I don't want to stay anywhere near your parents, Alexander, I retort. If it comes to that, I'd rather go back home. Alexander's parents are too difficult to deal with, and I can't bear any more unnecessary stress. Alexander nods in agreement, and Caelum does the same. Let's head back home and get everything sorted as quickly as possible, Alexander concludes. He lifts his gaze to Caelum. Thank you for warning us. We'll talk more once Aria and I have settled the children. Caelum shoves his hands into his pockets, his eyes briefly settling on my hand, noticing the engagement ring. His lips press into a thin line as he nods curtly. Of course. I'm staying nearby. I'll send you the address later, he replies quickly, his tone clipped. Without another word, Caelum turns and walks away from us. Alexander and I share another glance, both of us feeling the weight of the situation we're facing, and the challenges still to come.
Chapter 103 Caelum. It's painful to witness the perfect image of the family that should have been mine, yet someone else has taken my place. The memory of seeing my children with Alexander and Aria, laughing and building those moments of love and unity, twists my stomach with nausea. I shove the scene to the back of my mind. I can't afford to dwell on it now. Drave is in the city, and while I despise Aria's choice to become Alexander's mate, I cannot let Drave tear them apart. Night has fallen, and I'm standing on the balcony of my room, overlooking the city. The sound of the ocean blends with the hum of cars and people walking along the boardwalk. It's a beautiful city, tarnished by the unpredictable presence of my older brother. The intercom buzzes, and I assume it's Alexander. I answer and grant him access to my room. There's no time to dwell on the past. Alexander was right in the end. He found Aria first. He won. Sorry for the delay. The kids were a bit restless and upset about having to leave tomorrow, Alexander says politely as he enters the room. The image of Aloan and Thorn throwing tantrums flashes through my mind, and I push it away, just as the twins have been pushed away from me. I understand. Let's get this done quickly, I reply coldly, suppressing every emotion. Alexander nods, and we both walk toward the study area in the hotel room. How is the investigation into Asher's death going, Your Majesty? Alexander asks seriously. There's not much to investigate when we already know who's responsible. But I've sent my men to search the city, I reply, thoughtful. A map of the city is spread out across the desk. Alexander stands on one side, and I on the other. What I want to know is about my wife, I say, noticing Alexander raise an eyebrow at me. That's why I called you here. You're the expert on enchantresses. Seraphina abducted my children to do. Only the gods know what. I'm worried she might try again. The children, Alexander, they're my priority. Our eyes lock, and I realize that this is also a priority for Alexander. My children, my twins, whom he is raising, putting to bed, and taking to the beach. Mine, not his. A surge of possessive jealousy courses through me, and I struggle to rein it in. I'll use my contacts among enchantresses to track down your wife, Your Majesty. As soon as Aria and I return to the capital, Alexander informs me casually. Alexander, talk to Aria. Convince her to stay at the castle. It's the safest place for her and the children. I ask with sincerity in my voice. Aria told me how you reacted when you saw the kids. Caelum, Alexander responds, his voice heavy. We both know it wasn't exactly an unusual reaction. Says the guy who punched me in the face a month ago. I retort, the bitterness evident in my voice as I cross my arms, feeling the growing weight of the tension between us. To my irritation, Alexander only laughs. Yeah, I guess that runs in the family, he responds, his words laced with sarcasm that makes my teeth grit. However, I didn't explode at Aria for sleeping with you. That's the difference, don't you think? He stares at me with a firm, challenging look, and every word he says feels like an implied judgment, as if he's dissecting me with his eyes. Every time he mentions her, it's like he's claiming a piece of her for himself, something that should have been mine, but never was. My anger simmers beneath the surface, but Alexander doesn't stop. He continues, his voice laced with an irritating conviction. Aria doesn't need a guy who goes against her decisions, Caelum. She's raised the kids on her own this whole time. She surely knows what's best for the twins. The mention of my children makes my chest tighten, but it's not a tightness of tenderness. It's the burning anger of being constantly reminded of the time I've lost, of what I could never claim. My fists clench involuntarily, claws lightly scratching my palms as my gaze burns against him. Do you really think my children, the heirs of Veridiana, will be safe outside the castle, Alexander? I spit the words out, my voice filled with irritation and disbelief. Are you so blinded by passion that you can't see the logic right in front of you? I accuse him with frustration in my voice. Alexander crosses his arms in front of his body, his stance becoming more imposing. Our eyes lock, and there's a flicker of anger rising in our gazes. Caelum, you really don't listen, do you? Alexander replies, his voice tinged with sorrow as he shakes his head in disappointment. What I think is between you, who sees the kids as political pieces to secure your power and lineage on the throne, and me, who sees them for what they are, kids in danger. There's an abyss between our perspectives, cousin. If Aria doesn't want to stay at the castle because she doesn't think it's safe for the twins, then it's not the safe place for them. It's safer to trust the person who gave birth to them than the king who's never raised them for a second. I feel the heat rising in my body, the anger flooding every fiber of my being. Every word he says is like a stab to my pride, to my sense of authority. He accuses me of never being there, of being nothing but a shadow to my own children. And maybe, deep down, I know there's a cruel truth in that, but I won't admit it. Not now. Not to him. And who are you to decide that, Alexander? I growl, my voice thick with rage. My tone reverberates through the office walls like a thunderclap. Remember, they're mine. My children, not yours. I emphasize the words, every syllable full of venom, as if that could erase the doubts he's casting on me. They'll never be your children, no matter if you and Aria marry. They're mine. Alexander slowly shakes his head, as if pondering my words, but there's something in his expression that unsettles me deeply. He doesn't seem fazed. Instead, there's something that almost looks like pity, and that only makes me angrier. I don't need his pity. Yes, Your Majesty, they are your heirs. But will they ever see you as their father, or just as the king? Alexander asks.
Chapter 104, Seraphina. A black sports car pulls up in front of the hotel, and a tall, muscular man with bronze skin steps out, walking toward me. I've come to take you, Lady Seraphina, the man says in a deep voice. In whose name? I question with suspicion. In these times, I can't trust anyone in this city. Caelum and Drave are both cunning men, though the levels of their cunning may differ. My king, Drave Frost, my lady, the man replies. You can come with me willingly or unwillingly, but you will come to see him. I feel my powers surging within me at the threat in the man's voice, a malicious smile spreading across my lips. I raise my hand and allow a spark of electricity to dance between my fingers. Did Drave Frost not warn you about me, darling? I retort with humor. No one forces me to do anything, so don't be the first to try. The man shrugs and opens the passenger door for me. I get into the car, all my senses on high alert, my powers ready to be used if necessary. The drive through the city is quick, the man driving as though he's in a sports race, weaving through other cars at a speed that could easily cause an accident or a ticket. Eventually, he takes me to a more remote area of the city, where there are fewer houses and much more forest. He drives the car onto a hidden trail, and within minutes, we arrive in front of a gated community, heavily protected by magic. I can feel the runes around me, camouflaging the area. Once we enter the complex, I am taken aback by the magnitude of what Drave has managed to build. And I thought the bastard was exaggerating, I mutter in awe. Drave stands outside the parking lot as soon as we arrive. His posture even reminds me of Caelum's, and that unsettles me. Welcome to the beginning of my reign, Seraphina. Drave announces with joy and pride in his voice, spreading his arms in a triumphant gesture. I nod and continue looking around as I approach him. Yeah, looks like you didn't return to Veridiana yesterday, did you? I comment, still impressed. Drave lets out a mocking laugh. I never even left, my dear, he replies, his breath tickling my skin as he whispers in my ear. Drave's hand slides to my waist, guiding me into the luxurious home he owns. There are several staff members walking through the house, some glancing at us with interest, but all of them, without exception, bow their heads in reverence to Drave. Your little kingdom isn't so little, Drave, I comment once we're alone in his office. I keep all my fascination controlled and hidden. I can't show too much surprise knowing that Drave has managed to gather a massive army against Caelum right under our noses. It will never be small, my dear. And soon, we will be much bigger. That's why you're here. A great opportunity to join the winning side, Drave announces with pride. I sit on the sofa in his office, and Drave sits across from me on the other sofa. I look at him with curiosity, sensing that his plan to dethrone Caelum is much closer than I could have imagined. What are you planning, Drave? I ask. In a few days, we'll attack the capital. After Asher's death, Drave reports, and I gasp in surprise at the news. Drave notices my reaction and gives a smug little smile before continuing. Well, Caelum reacted just as I thought he would. He ordered the arrival of new soldiers here, which means the capital won't be as protected, I finish impressed. Drave nods, his body relaxing further on the sofa as if our conversation were routine and casual, not a coup in the making. Caelum is too distracted by his new family, wanting to keep them safe, Drave continues, his voice dripping with disdain. Then why do you need me? Your plan could go perfectly fine with any other enchantress you have here, I retort with suspicion. Drave gives me a malicious grin. Because you know my brother all too well. I need you to distract him a little more, Drave replies. Turn into Aria again, and keep my brother entertained for a few hours. I let out a mocking laugh at his request. Why does every lycan think shifting is as easy as changing clothes? They don't understand magic and its complexities. Without her DNA, I can't shift. I need at least Aria's blood if you want Caelum out of your way for a few hours, I respond with a disdainful tone. She's human. Taking her blood will be like pulling a hair strand. Easy and quick. I know you have some tricks up your sleeve to make our job easier, Seraphina. Drave answers confidently. I lean forward. The allure of Drave starts to become appetizing to me, not for his looks, but for his attitude. You know, I'm starting to think you're right, I say with a seductive voice. Caelum shouldn't have been made king. You have a much broader vision about things, especially about us enchantresses. Your brother would let our powers fade if he could. Drave smiles, stands up, and sits beside me. His hand runs over my shoulder until it reaches my waist again. His touch sends an involuntary shiver through me. Someone once told me never to underestimate an enchantress, and well, that person was right, Drave responds. Caelum would never see the world this way. For him, enchantresses shouldn't have any value, even though he has the blood of one. The potential I can see in Caelum, I can see in his brother. Do the gods have such cruel moods? To give one brother what the other would have used with so much more wisdom? I can do what you ask, but I need something in return, I finally declare. Drave leans in and kisses my bare shoulder, his thin, wet lips against my skin, creating a warmth of desire I never thought possible. Even in this, it's different from how Caelum touched me. Of course, Drave has the means of manipulation, and I don't mind him using it so openly. Of course you do. Tell me, and it will be yours, my dear, Drave responds with a seductive whisper. Chapter 105, Seraphina. Here it is. Drave bursts in like a storm, his voice brimming with triumph as he holds a small vial in his hands, raising it like a trophy. Aria's blood, ready to be used. Now, do your part, now, he demands, the urgency in his words echoing through the space. His green eyes gleam with a dangerous light, a mix of anxiety and determination that makes it clear that every second counts. Drave hands me the vial, and I'm tempted to ask how he managed to get Aria's blood. Did he resort to force? Or maybe some skilled deception? But the urgency of the moment keeps my tongue still. However, time cannot be wasted, and I begin the forbidden magic to perform the shifter spell. The aura of the spell rises around me, thick and heavy like a fog charged with electricity. Drave positions himself beside me, watching every move I make with sharp eyes. It's almost unsettling how he mixes fascination with veiled criticism. He's absorbing every detail, not because he understands the depth of the magic, but because he wants to control every aspect of the plan. He's a strategist, after all, always lurking, always judging. Soon, my ethereal beauty is replaced by the plain and dull appearance of the human Aria. The contrast is overwhelming. My skin, once radiant and flawless, now carries the mundane texture of a human. I glance at the mirror in front of me, the reflection an affront to my essence. Aria stares back at me. For a moment, I feel a sting of repulsion and something I don't want to name. I realize I could never perform the skin shift spell on myself. I can sacrifice many things for the good of Syltirion, but not who I see in the mirror, my enchantress identity. Perfect, Drave interrupts my thoughts, and his tone quickly brings me back to reality. He throws a piece of paper onto the table, the movement impatient, almost aggressive. Now just change and go to this address. He taps the paper, insistent. This is where my brother is staying. Do what you need to do with him in the next 24 hours. Nothing else matters. Drave crosses his arms, his posture rigid as a statue, but his eyes roam over my new form from head to toe. My men will keep an eye on Aria and Alexander to make sure they don't interfere. So, Seraphina, don't screw this up, got it? He glares at me as if I were a child needing instruction, and the condescension in his voice irritates me deeply. I lift my chin, my eyes, even beneath the disguise, carrying the coldness of someone who refuses to be underestimated. I was married to your brother for 5 years, with multiple lovers. The number is higher than the royal bank account, and he never suspected a thing, I respond with conviction. Drave, do what you do best. And let me do what I do best with Caelum, deceiving him. My brother-in-law chuckles low, almost purring, before turning and leaving the office. The skin shift spell is effective, but it comes with a cost that erodes my patience. I am not me, and every movement I make in her body is a sharp reminder of that. I need to finish this mission before my sanity is tested beyond its limits. The hotel where Caelum is staying is in the upscale part of the city, quite the opposite of where I'm staying. The longing for the luxury and comfort of being a queen floods my body. I need to focus on acting like Aria, so I push all that longing aside. I take a deep breath, adjust my posture, and force myself to behave like her. Every movement must be deliberately graceless, each step a portrait of mediocrity. My shoulders fall slightly, my gait becomes casual, almost sloppy, as I try to emulate the simplicity of a commoner. I need to be convincing. No one can look at me and see Seraphina, the powerful and cunning enchantress. They need to see Aria, human, shy, ordinary. I speak to the receptionist and ask to see Caelum. Anxiety pulses through my body as I wait for Caelum to appear at the reception. This needs to work. He needs to be charmed by the clumsy way I'll portray Aria. A few minutes later, Caelum appears at the reception, his eyes scanning the room until they land on me. His face carries concern and anxiety, expressions I know all too well in my husband. Aria, what happened? Is everything all right with the kids? Caelum asks, looking around as if searching for something. I place my hands on his shoulders to calm him. I realize it won't be that difficult to deceive Caelum, He's clearly distressed. Everything's fine, Your Majesty. The kids are fine. I came to see you, I say in a sweet, gentle voice, caressing his shoulders tenderly. Caelum raises an eyebrow at me, his confusion apparent. Okay, maybe it won't be so easy after all. Did you come here to argue with me about my children? Caelum asks, his voice taking on an authoritative tone that's as natural as breathing to him. Do you think I shouldn't see them? Or that it was wrong of me to interfere in their safety? The weight of his accusation hangs in the air, and for the first time, I feel irritation simmer beneath my skin. My mind works quickly, processing his words and planning my next move. The urge to laugh almost overtakes me. How ironic. The paradise he so longs for with Aria seems to be slipping through his fingers. Not even the human seems to want him around. A king without a kingdom, a father without children. But I swallow the urge to mock, staying in character. Aria would never laugh at him. She would be patient, understanding, perhaps even submissive. I lift my gaze to him, my eyes, which are not mine, conveying what I interpret as sadness. No, Caelum, of course not. I'm here because I'm worried about you, about Asher's death and your brother's arrival. I imagine things aren't going well, I reply, continuing to caress Caelum's shoulders until my hands slide down his arm. Shall we go up to your room and talk? I suggest in a calm, seductive voice. Caelum hesitates for a few moments, his eyes scanning my face as if searching for something. I know my spell worked well on my appearance and scent. I am Aria in every way that makes up her DNA, but behavior? That's harder to mimic. Please, Caelum. I think we need to talk for our sake, I insist, my voice gaining a more pleading tone. My hand intertwines with his, and I squeeze it gently. Caelum sighs and returns the gesture, gripping my hand tightly against his and leading me to the elevator. If you like it, subscribe, share, comment, and like. If you want to read the book, link in the description.